Welcome back, guys. It's Colin with the Sunpires TCG, and we are back with a deck profile showing off some of the new stuff from GD02. So we're doing a familiar color combination in blue-purple. So we've shown this kind of list on the channel before when ST05 first came out, but now we have some new things in the form of the Barbatos first form, which actually gives a really strong boost to this archetype, and I've been really liking what I've been seeing with the testing that I've done so far. So we'll get into the deck profile, but before we do, remember to like and subscribe so we can do more videos like this. But without further ado, let's just get right into it. So normally for these deck profiles, I like to start off by showing off the pilots. We have 8 in total between the 4 Mikazuki and 4 Amuro Ray. Not much explanation for Amuro, he's extremely good, arguably the best blue pilot. I don't think it's much of an argument, he probably is just the best blue pilot, just extremely strong. And then Mikazuki, of course, that damage ability is very powerful as well. As opposed to something like Marita Cruz, he does not have to be linked to anything to actually do that 1 damage. Damaging your own units also really isn't much of a detriment anyway, since now that we have the new Barbatos first form, as well as other things that can actually repair themselves. So he's actually stronger in some ways than Marita Cruz, and also the fact that the damage doesn't have to be tied to any sort of level or AP or HP or anything. But then moving on to the units, we'll start off with the low drops. We have 4 GM and 4 Grace Custom, so 8 total of these vanilla tutus. You can play more if you want now that we have the new Hyzak in blue from GD02, but I'm still sticking with 8 since that's what I've had before, and it's similar ratios to something like blue-red aggro from the set 1 format. And then the rest of the level 2 1-drops will be 4 copies of the gun tank. We are also playing 4 Anxias, so this is going to be the full ping package from blue. And then moving on to the level 3s, we have 4 copies of the Rizel, our main 4-3 vanilla. We're not playing any Hyakrins this time, so we're just sticking with 4 copies of this type of unit. The 4-3 body is still very relevant, especially in tandem with something like the Barbatos 4th form, which I showed at the beginning of the video. You can use it to pump your Rizel, swing 5 into your opponent's 5 health base to break it, so that's really nice. And again, 4-3 is just pretty tanky at that stage of the game. And then our other main level 3 is the star of the show, the Barbatos first form. This guy is really strong, so on attack, if he's damaged, draw 1 card. Does not have to be linked, does not have to be paired or anything. As long as he has a damage counter on him, he draws a card on swing. And we have quite a few ways of doing it, even beyond just the Mikazuki, right? So even linking it with Mikazuki, it becomes a 5 power guy that swings out of nowhere, draws you a card, very similar to something like the Sharzaku 2 from the starter deck that on death looks for a Xeon card, but this one just draws any card, and it's repeatable, so your opponent really has to deal with this the moment you swing it. But then moving on to the level 4s, like I said earlier, it's 4 copies of the Anxia to complete our ping package. As another note, these are even more important than ever now that white decks are probably going to be playing the new Rick DS blocker. It's a 3-3, so with our level 2 2-2s, to swing into those 3-3s and then being able to ping them away with the Anxia after our opponent blocks with them, it makes it really nice for us as an aggro deck. And then the rest of our level 4 units, as I foreshadowed earlier, is the RX-78s. So still 5 in total, very similar to our previous list. However, I inverted the ratios. Now we're playing 3 copies of the GD01 Gundam, as opposed to just 2 copies of the starter deck RX-78. The starter deck RX-78 is still extremely strong. You can swap the ratios or do 4 and 1 if you want, but there's a play that I've been really enjoying with the GD01 RX-78, which I can demonstrate in a second. So let's consider the following sequence when we're going second. On your first turn, of course, you get a resource. Being at level 2, you'll play out one of your many level 2 2-2s. Then on your second turn, you'll go to level 3, and then you will play your Barbatos first form. Notably, you're still at level 3, so you cannot link Mikazuki since he is a level 4 pilot, so he's just going to be standing there for the time being. And then on your third turn, this puts you at level 4 thanks to your EX resource. You'll play the GD01 Gundam, and then you will pop your EX resource to put Mika on the Gundam, not actually on the Barbatos, this is going on your Gundam. And with Mika, you're gonna put a damage on the Barbatos, and since you control 2 other units, you will draw off of your GD01 Gundam. And then you can go ahead and attack with your Barbatos first form, and that'll net you another card. So this play draws you 2 cards and this does it while you're still developing bodies, as opposed to something like Show Resolve where, you know, you just have to spend 3 and use a card from your hand. But this, you actually have bodies on board, which is really nice. Your opponent still has to find a way to deal with the Barbatos first form, which is not really that hard, all things considered. But this way, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, since if you had Mikazuki on the Barbatos, for example, it would only be 2 health when you try to do this, so it's very easy to trade back into. This way, you still drew 2 cards because of the Gundam and the Barbatos, and you still have this 5 power Gundam ready to go for your following turn while your opponent's spending time to deal with this, because obviously they don't want to let you go to the next turn with this one, right? But yeah, that is just one of a few applications that you can make with the RX-78. Of course, just linking Amuro with it is just really strong as well. Since we are an aggro deck, we're going wide, so it's very easy to trigger the draw off of this, and then being able to hunt down your opponent's thing. But yeah, having 5 total Gundams that will link with your Amuro is also very nice. And then for level 5s, we're just playing 2 copies of the new Gundam Gusion Rebake. So notably, we're just playing 2 copies because I didn't want to get too clogged on this, since again, we're an aggro deck, and more importantly, this is not capable of being a link pair in our deck since we are not playing Akihiro. Just again, Akihiro doesn't really do much in the format right now since there's not really that many good targets to fetch off of him. So otherwise, the Gusion Rebake is just a really efficient body. 3-5 blocker is strangely really strong. And then the on deploy being able to ping one of your units and one of your opponent's units, the same thing as Mikazuki. So you can have your Barbatos out, play your Gusion, ping it, draw a card, and then the Gusion being a blocker means you get to cover your Barbatos so your opponent doesn't get to attack back into it. So they actually have to like use multiple units or use like some sort of like card effect to like ping it away, which is really nice for you. And then the last of the units is 2 copies of the Barbatos 4th form from the starter deck. Honestly, in the previous format when ST05 first came out, I wasn't really huge on this card in an aggro deck, but in this deck, because we have a little bit more sustainability, I treat it kind of like the Banshee in the blue-red deck, where it's just our main top end that can come in the late game. But unlike the Banshee, you can actually just like play this way earlier, because Banshee usually doesn't come out until like level 7, level 8 typically, sometimes even level 9. This one, you play it down on curve. Again, you can just do something like ping your Barbatos first form, get in for 4 power and draw a card, which is really nice. And not only that, but it's just additional copies of units that can link with your Mikazuki, and getting the surprise suppression out of nowhere is pretty good as well. And then moving on to the commands, we have again 3 copies of Fatal Strike, just like our previous deck profile. This card is just really good, especially when we're in a world where the Rick DS is a thing and other aggro decks are still very good. We blow up enemy Resells, Hyakurens, even Sharzaku link pairs, which is really nice. And then again, like I said, for the white blocker decks, Rick DS, the Striker Pack token, Gundam Lafrith, Zowart. There's just so many things that this card can get out of the way. And then, most importantly, you know, we can even get rid of small bodies that could otherwise trade into our Barbatos first form. So we can even potentially draw additional cards if we set it up right. And for the rest of the commands, it's just 2 copies of Show of Resolve. As opposed to a deck like Blue-Red, we really don't need that many copies of it. Number one, I didn't want to get too clogged on it, especially because, again, we're kind of a low to the ground aggro deck. But not only that, we have more draw power in the form of other things like the Barbatos first form and the GD01 Gundam. So this is just to gas back up a little bit, but again, we don't really have to see it as opposed to some of the other blue aggro decks like Blue-Red, right? And then last but not least, we have the bases. So it's going to be 2 copies of the Corsica base. This base is just still extremely strong. Just playing it on curve, especially going first, making that Tallgeese token. Not much more that you can say there. And then for the last 2 bases is going to be 2 copies of the Nahel Argama. This card I've been really enjoying in blue-purple before the set came out. And even now, I think this card is still really good. Especially now, like versus the blocker decks. Like I said before, the Rick DS is going to be a very popular blocker that these white decks are going to be playing, and this can rest it, which is really nice. But equally importantly as well, in the aggro mirrors, just getting to rest your opponent's weenie and getting to hunt it down is also really nice as well. Especially in tandem with you setting up like your gun tanks, as well as like other ways of like paying down your opponent's things, or just like straight up attacking into it with your Gundam, right? So here's the list fully laid out. So one of the main reasons why I really enjoy blue-purple as opposed to something like blue-red is that while this deck fights on a very similar axis, a lot of its main combos do not require you to actually create a link pair. The RX-78s can be worked perfectly fine with Mikazuki since you can just ping themselves and repair the damage afterwards. You can still enable the +1 to your whole board, and more importantly with Mika onto this Gundam, you get to draw a card. And like I said with the combo earlier, you can even use it to ping your Barbatos without actually linking it, so you can draw that additional card. You can use Gusion and the other Barbatos 4th form to do the same thing as well. There's just so many different combinations that you can do to enable your card effects without actually having to make the link pair of like Mikazuki onto your Barbatos or like Amuro onto your Gundam, right? As opposed to something like Blue-Red, where you typically have to link your Kshatriya to do some of your most explosive plays. Well, on the topic of the blue-red deck, you actually have a very similar count of things that do ping damage. So of course we have the 4 gun tanks and the 4 anxias as well. But we also have Gusion Rebig, which is basically another pinger, so we effectively have 10 ping units, so to speak. As well as the Mikazuki, who basically, like I said before, parallels the power of Marita Cruz. But again, you have this additional flexibility as well as the draw power that your Barbatos offers, and even really solid removal in the form of Fatal Strike being able to neutralize your opponent's early threats or their blockers as well. But you still get to be like a normal aggro deck where you start off low to the ground with a bunch of your weenies, break your opponent's EX base, get in with everybody, deal a lot of damage, but also getting to make favorable trades with all your easy damage pingers. But again, you don't need a link pair to do any of this, which is really, really awesome. And then when you do see the link pairs, it's just icing on the cake, right? But yeah, definitely let me know what you guys think. This is a color combination that I've been really enjoying. Of course, this list wouldn't be totally definitive. Again, we are just in the beginning of a new format, so there are definitely some ratios that we can change around here. But definitely let me know in the comments what you guys think, what you would change, if anything at all. Let me know what you guys think about this color combination as well. I think this one is really strong, but let me know in the comments if you think I'm crazy or if you agree with me. I'll definitely be interested to find that out. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and remember to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.